Hello, people. How are you doing today? Back again with another episode. We are nearing the end. We are so close to the end, but life does go on. Cleopatra is about to take the throne, but there's a catch. She has to do it with her brother. Like they they used to have there was a phrase parents used to use back in the day when you wanted to go to the store and your siblings was begging you to go with you. No, you gonna slow me down. Take your brother with you. But Mom, I said take your brother with you. Well, that was the catch. Cleopatra's father knew his time was coming, and he elected to have her as his successor. But she had to rule with her brother. Couldn't be a cousin, couldn't be her bestie. It had to be her brother. And he made this known to the Roman government. So, with that being said, let's find out what's going to happen.
A brother and a sister. The woman would be Cleopatra VII, his oldest daughter now. The male was going to be her younger brother. This is really a half-brother, probably. This is going to be Ptolemy XIII, a brother she detested, hated him. But let's talk a little bit about Cleopatra as a legend. Right? There's a great deal about Cleopatra that is wrong. Right? Let me just say, just wrong. And there's good reason for it. History is written by the victors. The people who win write the history.
Mm-hmm.
And Cleopatra lost. It's the Romans who win. And they paint a picture of Cleopatra as this femme fatale, seducing good Roman men, this beautiful temptress. She's seductive, she's promiscuous. Almost all of that is myth. It's not true. As far as we know from the records about Cleopatra, she wasn't particularly a beauty. She was monogamous, right? She was intelligent. None of these horrible things that the Romans claim. But her life really falls into three periods. Before she meets Caesar, with Caesar, and after Caesar, which is the same as with Antony. Let's talk about before Caesar. You remember the basics, I'm sure. She was very bright, taken by her father once to Memphis where she sees the Apis bull. Perhaps that's where she gets the idea that she's going to learn an ancient Egyptian language. Very bright. Now, as a child, she watched her father, and Cleopatra knew that she would need Rome if she was going to survive. She knew that. She was bright. Very early in her reign, by the way, very early, she goes down south, for a religious ceremony. She's going to see the Bucus bull, one of the three sacred bulls. There was the Apis, the Minervis, and in the south was the Bucus bull. And she's going to see the new Bucus bull installed in the temple. And there's even a record of it, and people were amazed. The Egyptian priests were amazed. It says, and the queen got in the boat with us. Kind of like she was one of us. Those Ptolemies didn't go south. They stayed in Alexandria. But she is, in a sense, Egyptianizing herself. She's going to be, in some ways, the most Egyptian of all Ptolemies, speaking the language, interested in the religion. She's unique. What did she look like? We don't have any certain portraits of her. There are a couple of coins. Show her with a nose that's a little bit too long. There's one bust in a museum in Berlin that we're pretty sure is a portrait of Cleopatra. She probably had reddish hair. She looks rather plain, not really a femme fatale. She's not portrayed in this bust as a seductress by any means.
So, 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 what you're saying, Professor? What you're saying is she's average at best. Wow. So, an average woman, according to the myth, was able to pull these high-valued men. So all these myths about her being a temptress and seducing folks is just that. It's a myth. It might have some truth to it, but Professor's saying that, nah, most of that ain't true. That didn't happen. Interesting. So she seems to be like, it's like she's that one white person that comes to the hood that everybody's cool with. Just the one. Just the one. And this tradition happens in not just in the hood, but throughout reality itself. There's always been in the music industry, for instance. There's always been that one white person that black people just openly accept. Everybody likes. My grandmother, who was born in 1928, her white person of choice, as far as music goes, was Johnny Cash. She loved her some Johnny Cash, the man in black. When he would come on the radio, boy, she cranked that bad boy up. And I'd have to endure that. My grandfather, I don't really think he had anybody that wasn't black that he listened to. Not that I know of or remember. But during my time on Earth, I remember people as far back as Kenny G. That guy. He didn't sing, but man, he could play an instrument. Then, of course, my generation, we had people like Eminem. Shout out to Eminem, bro. Always welcome. I don't care what they say about you. But yeah, I would say Cleopatra is average at best. She just happened to be born into a wealthy family. You know, but that wealth wasn't earned. That wealth was stolen. It was stolen from the rightful heirs, and then throughout their family history, it was just passed down, generational wealth. So she was fortunate to have that. As the professor was saying, had they been in Greece, never would have happened. Woman wouldn't have been allowed to rule. And I think that's why her older sister got killed. Because she saw in Egypt that women were capable of having authority, being in positions of power, with or without a man. And she wanted to do things like the Egyptians did. But at the end of the day, you still Greek. And that's what a lot of Negroes don't seem to understand. No matter how high you get, at the end of the day, you still a Negro. They'll accept you, they'll tolerate you, but they don't respect you. And you can tell they don't respect you because as soon as shit hit the fan, they abandon you. They turn their back on you. So all this time you thought you was just, yeah, there's no such thing as racism. Look what I got. Look what I've accomplished. Okay, but if you accomplished that, then how is it that other people are taking that away from you? If your community supported you, you still have what you have attained over these years. But in a lot of situations, that's not the case. Malcolm X spoke about it. Louis Farrakhan spoke about it. Muhammad Ali spoke about it. Muhammad Ali used the analogy about, what was it? All the snakes. All these snakes coming towards the door. Maybe 50, 100 snakes. Don't mean you no harm. But they're in the mix with all these other snakes that want to kill you. And they all look the same. So how can you tell the difference? You're not a snake expert. So how do you know which one is not going to try to kill you? The best thing for you to do is close the door and don't let none of them in. Good point. Very good point. So, back to Cleopatra. Yeah. Professor saying that she wasn't this femme fatale. She wasn't this bomb-ass looking woman. You know, she was average at best. Let's find out what's going on.
But it's all we have of Cleopatra. Now, what happens when she is placed on the throne with her brother? The brother is younger. She's about 17. He's younger. And there is a trio that is placed as his advisors, right? This Ptolemy 13, it's a trio. There's a politician who's important. His name is Pothinus. He's a politician. There's a rhetorician, right? Somebody to make the speeches, I guess. And there's a eunuch. These three are guiding the new Ptolemy, Ptolemy 13. And the politician, Pothinus, who really is probably calling the shots, turns the people against Cleopatra. Now remember, Cleopatra has watched her father. She knows that Rome has to be courted. You know, remember how the armies are so important to everybody? Cleopatra knew that. She's going to use somebody else's army, Rome's. It's like using other people's money today. She's using other people's armies. But Pothinus turns the Greeks in Alexandria against her, saying, look, Cleopatra is pro-Roman. We're not. We're Greeks. Right? So there is a rebellion against Cleopatra. And Cleopatra is forced to flee the palace. She knows what's coming. She's going to be killed if her terrible younger brother has his way as guided by this trio. She flees to Syria, where she doesn't just go into hiding. This is a woman to be reckoned with. She raises an army in Syria. And at this point, Rome hears what's going on. Now, they are the executors of the state. Right? They've been left as executors of this estate. Rome is having its own problems, by the way. There's a civil war. The triumvirate is not getting along so well. And Pompey is going to flee to Egypt. So Pompey flees to Egypt, and Caesar is sent to straighten this all out. He's going to straighten it out. Pompey, of course, arrives first. He's fled and is met by a delegation from Pothinus, this politician. Now, Pothinus is always trying to figure out where is the power going to be, and he says it's going to be in Caesar. So Pothinus has Pompey met in a boat as they're coming into Alexandria Harbor, and Pompey has fled with his family. gets into a boat, and his head is cut off.
Oh, wow.
Pothinus has figured out that Caesar's going to be really happy. He's going to really be in strong with Caesar when Pothinus shows up and says, I've got your opponent's head. So in front of his family, Pompey is murdered.
Wow.
Caesar arrives. He is furious when he is shown Pompey's head. Again, this is an honorable Roman who respects his opponents. But he's got a job at hand. He's got to establish the throne of Egypt. He wants stability because they need the grain. Rome wants the grain. Now, at this point, Cleopatra hears that Caesar is in Alexandria, in the palace, and she knows that her brother's advisors are going to be advising against her. And this is the famous scene where she figures out that she has to sneak back into the palace. And this is, if you're familiar with the Elizabeth Taylor movie, this is where she comes in the rug, wrapped up in a rug. It's interesting, by the way, it shows how much older I'm getting. When I now make references to the movie and refer to Cleopatra as Elizabeth Taylor, usually my students don't know who she is. They don't know the movie. I'm at the point now where there's a whole generation that has grown up not knowing this wonderful movie. It's historically quite accurate, quite accurate. But anyway, she does, as far as we know, get smuggled into the palace in a rug. And Caesar says, what is this? It's a gift, right? And then unrolls it, and sure enough, it's this 17-year-old girl.
So, the argument that Cleopatra was black because she was Queen of Egypt versus Cleopatra being white, which is depicted in the movie. See, the way I feel about it is that the government knows the history of everything. They do. They know the history of everything. And when they allow Hollywood to do the things they do, they're not paying, they don't care about how other people are going to take it. The people that have skin in the game, the people that will most be affected by this, they don't care that they're going to be butthurt. How could you do that? That's a black country. There ain't no fucking way it was a white woman, a queen of Egypt. But the government knew. They knew that the Ptolemies, the Greeks, the Romans, European people, white people, went in to Egypt and took over. So at this part of my mental growth, at this stage of my mental growth, I feel that, yes, Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, was white. There were a lot of white people, Europeans, in Egypt way before Cleopatra was even thought of. Not to mention, she wasn't the first Cleopatra. There were other Cleopatras in Egypt that were white. Now, I still say I would like to know where the name originated from, but as far as the actual person, they were white. So when you see the movie Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor, this white woman, and she's hobnobbing with Mark Antony and all these other people, yeah, it's true. She was a European. She was Greek. She was white. But she wasn't that good looking. She was average at best. But then, that's Hollywood, you know. they gotta hype it up and make it more than what it is so they can sell the movie. But you heard what the professor said. There were a lot of accurate portrayals in the movie. I think what needs to happen is that we need to open up a dialogue with each other to weed out what's true, what's not true, what could be true, what has some truth to it, instead of always getting upset and hurt over what Hollywood and the government tells us is right and wrong. Because like I said, the government knows a lot about everything. They don't always tell us, and even when they do tell us, they take it out of context. It's the truth. It might be the truth, but if it's not in the proper context, that's when people believe it's a lie. And politicians do it all the time. They don't just straight out lie. They'll tell you the truth. Just like what's going on now. People getting all butthurt over the Democratic Party. Democratic Party ain't never been shit. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit up here and go with the Republican Party. My thing with that, and I will get into politics in a whole nother series. But my thing with that is, if one side is going to tell you how wrong the other side is, what are you going to do to fix it? If you want my vote, what are you going to do different from the people I've been voting for? You keep telling me how they wrong, they going to lie to you, they going to deceive you, you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that. I'm trying to do better in life, not worse. So why would I jump out of the frying pan and into the fire? I already know it's hot. Now you want me to burn myself and kill myself instead of just being hot? Well, the Democrats ain't this and they ain't done that and they lied to the people. But what are you doing? What have you done? Don't just cherry pick 3 or 4 black people here and there and say, see, we help black people. No, you helped individuals. You did not help the black people. You did not help the black community. So I could care less about your talking points. Do something for the whole community. My people have given their lives for this country. Black women have done so much. Black women themselves have done so much for this country. And we don't get the recognition that we deserve. We don't get the assistance that we deserve. And to go even further, even when we come together and we decide, fuck it, we'll do it all by ourselves, some group of ignorant Europeans come, burn our shit down, and then the government like, sorry. What you mean sorry? You can't control the ignorance in your community? You let them burn down our shit, kill our people, and all we get is a sorry? You ain't gonna give us no money to rebuild our shit? If I burn down your house, you gonna want me to go to jail. You gonna want me to pay the price, one way or another. So why shouldn't you pay? Why shouldn't you have to pay us? Reparations is in order. But like I said, that's a discussion for another day. Let's get back to Cleopatra.
Now, what is this relationship between Caesar and Cleopatra? First of all, Caesar is a middle-aged man. He's been around. He is cultured, by the way. I wonder, often, what language did they speak in? Cleopatra spoke many languages. Many. Might have spoken Latin, right? Caesar certainly would have spoken Greek. So they can talk. There's no problem about that. They don't need interpreters. And you certainly don't need interpreters for what they were going to do later. He has never seen a woman like Cleopatra. Roman women were kept in the houses, uneducated. They weren't educated. Greek women were educated. Cleopatra, think about it. She knows the languages. She has been to the library at Alexandria, read Herodotus. She is educated. She is a powerful woman. She is a force. He's never seen a woman like this. This is very different. She may be 17 years old, but this is a very different kind of woman, say, than Caesar's wife. He has a wife, of course, back in Rome. Anyway, Caesar's decision is that both she and Ptolemy XIII, her bratty younger brother, should rule together. Pothinus is sort of against this, and he thinks he can have an insurrection against Caesar's small force there, and they're causing trouble for Caesar. And there's a small war. It's called the Alexandrian Wars. Small, very small. It's not a real full-scale war. But in the end, of course, Caesar wins. Cleopatra has Pothinus executed. Right? Her bratty younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, tries to escape and drowns in the river.
Oh, wow.
Right? Cleopatra is alone on the throne, just what she wanted. Now, tradition required that she have a male at her side, and she marries the even younger brother, who becomes Ptolemy XIV, who's a nonentity. And when I say a nonentity, he disappears. We don't know what happened to him. Maybe, Cleopatra is indeed a Ptolemy. Perhaps she had him killed. We don't know what happens to Ptolemy XIV, but he certainly disappears in history. But Cleopatra is now the mistress of Caesar. And we have some records of what happens to them. She takes him on a boat trip south. They are going to go through Egypt. Now, I think this is a really calculated, smart move. Granted, Caesar is sophisticated, educated, but he's never seen a place like Egypt. He's come from Rome. He's never seen a palace like the one in Alexandria. And other things. Think about when we go to Egypt. He's never seen the pyramids. He's never seen any of these things. And she's going to show it all to him. She knows he's going to be impressed. So they go on this boat, the Thalamegos, the big boat it's called. It was a huge boat, practically, a floating house. And what would they have seen? Pyramids. Would have probably been Caesar's first view of a mummy. Kind of interesting, his first taste of maybe immortality, that you could be immortal, perhaps. They go south, he sees Thebes. And they go far, even further. They go all the way to Aswan. Quite a trip. Now, as they're going through Egypt, the people are seeing their queen. Something they hardly ever saw with the other Ptolemies, their king or queen. And they are treating Caesar as her consort. She is, of course, in Egyptian politics, religion, a goddess. And Caesar is kind of being treated like a god alongside of her. And I think he probably liked it. This is where Caesar maybe gets the idea that he's a little bit above mere mortals. It'll cost him his life, but we'll see.
Oh, wow. So, in order to keep the Romans happy, she takes Caesar on a tour, on a grand tour of the country. Show him the different sights, see the people, see how the people react to her. She's not the best looking woman in the world. She's average at best. But the way she treats him It's not about her looks. Ladies, ladies, I can't believe he left me for her. She don't even look as good as I do. She ain't as educated as I am. It's the way she made him feel. Cleopatra knew how to take care of a man. This man, Caesar, took her on as a side chick, knowing he had a woman at home. Not only a woman, he had a whole wife at home. But the wife did everything he said, even if she didn't like it, even if she didn't agree with it, because that was a society that they lived in. She didn't want no smoke. But he come to Egypt, where women at any given time in history have been known to be in positions of authority. That's just the way they roll. Ain't nothing out of ordinary there. It's just that this particular woman happens to be Greek. She's Greek. And she's in Egypt running things. And he thinks this is fascinating. A strong white woman running shit. Whew. And then he sees all the splendor of Egypt. Like, man, this is really nice. Wow, we don't have this shit back home. So he falls in love. Technically. I wasn't there, I don't know. I'm just saying technically. Cover myself. So Cleopatra becomes his side chick. And of course we know at some point in time she has a thing with Mark Antony, but I'm pretty sure Professor will get to that later. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for conversating with me. And we will have a conversation later. Talk to you again.